But I will ask our guests to forgive me for a few minutes because there are things that should be said only in your native language. I'll go back to English afterwards, and those who have those new AirPods with the Israeli version so can use them now. אופיר שושני, זיכרונה לברכה, בת 20, שירתה כמ"כית טירונים. במסמך תפיסת התפקיד שלה שקראתי, היא פירטה מה דרוש על מנת להיות מפקדת טובה. אם אתה לא מבין, תשאל. זה מה שהיא כתבה וכמה זה חסר לנו היום בעידן הזה של סימני הקריאה. אופיר ציינה את החשיבות של דוגמה אישית, של צניעות ושל שקט. השאיפה שלה הייתה שהחיילים שלה יפעלו לא מכוח הסמכות, אלא מכוח כבוד האדם. וככה היא כתבה, פה אני מצטט. תפקיד המ"כ זה להיות האבא והאמא של החיילים במלוא מובן המילה, זה להיות חלק מההתפתחות של האדם ולראות את התהליך שהוא עובר, להביא ממני אליהם את שיטת הפיקוד שלי, את הערכים שבהם אני מאמינה, להיות חלק מהתפיסה שלהם כטירונים בצה"ל, ואף להפוך אותם לאנשים ואזרחים חושבים וטובים יותר. אופיר שושני נרצחה בחדרה, בדור הצעיר בקיבוץ כפר עזה, ב7 באוקטובר, וזו תפיסת התפקיד שהיא הורישה לנו. הרש פולין, זיכרונו לברכה, היה בן 14 כשהוא כתב לפני 10 שנים את המילים הבאות. מדי פעם אתה מגיע למנהרה, אתה נכנס אל הלא נודע ואתה לא יודע מתי תצא. ללכת בחושך, בהתחלה אתה מתבאס ולא מוכן, וקורא שאתה מגיע לקצה, אבל אין זו יציאה או סוף, אלא רק שינוי במצב. אבל גם מי שבמנהרה יודע שיש סוף. לכל אדם יש את המנהרה שלו, מה שבטוח שיש סוף. כמה זמן ייקח להגיע לסוף, זה תלוי בו. המנהרה שלי זו מנהרה שלקח זמן, אבל כל דבר בחיים עברתי את המנהרה. מי יודע בעוד כמה מנהרות אני אתקל. מה שבטוח שאני הולך על סוף המנהרה. הרש נרצח במנהרה ברפיח. עכשיו, אני מספר את זה כאן, כי מאחורי המספרים עומדים אנשים ונשים ופרצופים. אנשים כמו אופיר והירש ורבים אחרים יכלו לשבת איתנו כאן היום, כנראה לתרום לנו ולעזור לנו לשמר את ישראל כמעצמה טכנולוגית ולחזור למעמד שלנו כמגדלור ערכי לגויים. ואני באופן אישי, את התמונות האלה אני רואה כל לילה, ואני משתף אתכם, כי רק כשאתה רואה אותם, אתה מבין מה המשמעות של אחריות, ומה המחיר האמיתי כשאנחנו טועים וכשאנחנו נכשלים. בשב"כ, כשאנחנו מסכלים פיגוע, אנחנו יכולים רק לדמיין מי ניצל, וכשאנחנו לא מצליחים לסכל טבח, אנחנו ממש רואים בעיניים מי נרצח. ואחריות, בראייתי לפחות, היא אינסופית. אי אפשר לפזר אותה. אפשר רק לקחת. ובמנהיגות מוטב לקחת אחריות על כשלים ולא קרדיט על הישגים. דווקא את זה אפשר ורצוי לחלק. כי בעצם, מה זה מנהיגות? היא מבוססת על אמון, ובכדי לקבל אמון ולתת לך אמון, אנשים צריכים לדעת שתמיד תיתן להם גיבוי ותמיד תיקח אחריות. זה אגב שהם רואים כשהם הולכים אחריך. והמנהיגות לא נגמרת בלקיחת אחריות על כשל. היא מסתיימת באחריות לתקן. בדיוק כמו שבמבצע או בפרויקט טכנולוגי, מסיימים אותם בתחקיר ובהפקת לקחים. באותו בוקר נורא, אישית, ארגונית, לאומית, השב"כ הרים את הראש ויצא למלחמה בכל החזיתות. האנשים שלנו נלחמו, הסתכנו, פינו אזרחים תחת אש, הובילו מבצעי חילוץ חסרי תקדים, נשארו מאחורי הקלעים, חיסלו מחבלים ועמדו בהבטחה שאנחנו נתנו, שזה המינכן שלנו. ונבוא נסגור חשבון עם כולם, בלבנון, בעזה ובכל העולם. נותרו עוד 2 אדריכלים לסגור איתם חשבון, ונשאר להחזיר את רן. המכנה המשותף לכל הפעולות האלה זה היוזמה והאומץ. שני ערכים שטבועים עמוק בשב"כ. האומץ לקחת סיכון, האומץ להסתער, האומץ להציב את עצמך בין הסכנה לבין האזרחים, אבל עם זה גם האומץ להקשיב, להשתנות, האומץ להביע דעה עצמאית, האומץ ללכת ראשון, האומץ ללכת לבד, ולפעמים גם לשלם מחיר. ולצד זה עשינו תחקיר. החלטנו לעשות אותו רחב ונוקב, והסתכלנו קודם כל על הכשלים שלנו ומה הוביל אליהם. הפקנו לקחים, ובנינו מערכים ומנהלת מלווה, ולמדנו איך להיות טובים יותר. ועשינו את זה מתוך אותה אחריות לחקר האמת ולבניית העתיד. אבל הדרך היחידה לעשות תחקיר כולל לכשל הזה, לדעת באמת מה קרה, איך הגענו ולמה לא מנענו, לפוגג את הקונספירציות המסוכנות שמסכנות את המשך קיומנו, ללמוד מה לתקן ולהבטיח שזה לא יחזור, היא רק באמצעות ועדת חקירה ממלכתית. כזאת שיש בה אנשי מקצוע שרואה את כל התמונה ויודעת לספר את כל הסיפור ולהחליט מה צריך לעשות כדי שזה לא יחזור. אני יודע שזה מה שאופיר והירש היו רוצים, אני יודע שזה מה שהמשפחות שלהן רוצות, ואני יודע שזה מה שהילדים שלנו מצפים מאיתנו, כי ברגע שלא החלטנו ולא תחקרנו את המערכת כולה, בעצם גזרנו עליהם את ה7 באוקטובר הבא. אז בואו נפסיק להתקוטט וניכנס לתהליך הזה ביחד בכדי ללמוד ומתוך מטרה להיות טובים יותר. זה היה במשמרת שלנו ולכן זאת האחריות שלנו. אפשר לשים את זה? I will try to use technology in order to move to the second part of the lecture in English. Okay, so I would like to talk today about three main subjects: the relation between technology and specific high technology and national security, the issue of influence and counter-influence, and the issue of AI superiority, or how to deploy AI in organizations. I will begin with a global view about the evolution of warfare during the last century, more or less. So, as we all know, since the two world wars both of them were very long, many fatalities, a lot of costs. So we invented the atom in order to shorten the combats, and even only by acquiring an atom bomb, you can avoid war. But since this was a too powerful weapon to use, so then the world invented the subconventional war, terrorism. Because it doesn't really matter how many bombs you have and what conventional weapons you have, you cannot deal with terrorism with them. Nowadays, we see the new combat, the cyber and influence arena, and we should be prepared for that. Now, if I'm trying to look about the common denominators of all those three courses of action, I can sign three of them. First of all, you need technology for all of them, of course. Secondly, you need alliances. If we want to survive here, in the region, we must have alliances. Take, for example, the issue of cyber defense. Imagine a secure place in the cloud where every state, every Western state, from Japan to the United States, is sharing its own anomalies, metadata anomalies, in a specific place in order that the other country will be better prepared to a similar attack. This is the vision that we should strive for, like a national or a cyber Interpol. But there is another common denominator. The Iranians are evident all over. And I would suggest that if we would like to remove the Iranian threat, we should be focused not only on their nuclear capability, but also on their long-range missiles program, and of course, other tools that they have. If I'm taking it to our region, trying to look how this conflict, the Israeli-Arab conflict, has been evolved. So I think that at the beginning, our ancestors, they faced multiple armies against them. But more or less from 73 and on, even though they surprised us, I think our enemies acknowledged that they cannot really compete the Israeli resilience and the Israeli aerial superiority. So therefore, they invented terrorism, and we invented the ISA. And not be mistaken, we do not succeed to foil everything. We intercept about 75% of attacks, but we can survive with that. So then they invented the rockets, because again, aerial superiority doesn't really help you against ground-to-ground rockets. And we established the multi-defense system, the Iron Dome and the Arrow, etc., etc. And what we see now is a combination of proxy areas, ungoverned areas, whether it's in Yemen or Gaza, sometimes in regions in the areas in the West Bank, or Lebanon and Syria, and terrorism and proxy. And what we did, and we saw it very, very clearly during the last war, the 12 days war with Iran and the combat with the Palestinians, with Hamas, is that a combination of very accurate aerial capabilities and accurate intelligence can deter nation and even sometimes be the factor that will end those wars. But what we are facing nowadays is that in the influence side, we are actually losing. We're actually losing, and we should do a lot of efforts in order to establish alliances in order to compete it. Another aspect, in order to see what has been changed and what should be changed in our national security strategy, is to look at it from the sovereignty point of view. The concept of sovereignty has been changed dramatically because of the cyber era. It's not only borders that defend you, we need other things. I think that last time I was here, about 2 or 3 years ago, I don't remember, I quoted Professor Harari, who said that the new imperialism is measured not by the number of troops on the ground, but by the amount of accesses to your servers. So we don't need only physical walls, because physical walls are being built against kinetic attacks. We also need moral walls against influence attack, and of course firewalls against cybernetic attacks. So my message here is only one, that Israel should change its national security strategy in accordance to these threats. And now I'd like to move to influence. And I will use, with your permission, Ben-Gurion. And when Ben-Gurion wrote his national security strategy based on the first 3 levels here, what he saw were militaries and states. And what we are facing now are proxies, terror organizations, and non-state actors. So we should use his principle, but we should modify them a little bit. Let's take the deterrence issue. Don't be mistaken, we can deter states, we cannot deter fundamentalistic organizations. However, lack of deterrence encourages them. When they see that you do not react to explosive balloons, to incitement, to planning terror activity against the Israelis, you do not react against it, they are only being encouraged to do more. Preemptive interception is the only way that I'm familiar with that can deal with the replacement of deterrence against fundamentalistic terror organizations. As for alerting, in order to alert, one needs an operational attitude. I can tell you very overtly that after debriefing our failure in October 7th, we know that we could have provided a better alert and more accurate alert than we did. However, a latitude, operational latitude, freedom of action to act covertly in Gaza would have helped us to bring more and more opportunities in order to improve our alerting capability. As for decisive victory, in the non-flag era, when you don't put the flag like in Rashrash or in Iwo Jima, the meaning of decisive victory is only a combination of constant elimination of the top brass while encouraging a local alternative. Otherwise, terror will be re-emerged. Now, after Ben Gurion came Meridor, and he added another level, the defensive level, and the defense should be modified to all kinds of threats. 4 dimensions: ground threats, underground threats, aerial threats, and cybernetic threats. Therefore, in order to really modify it to our challenges, I believe that Israel can live only with 2 kinds of borders. And I'm not talking about borders with states that you have peace agreement with. If there is a non-state actor across the border, whether it's Lebanon or Syria or Gaza, you should be able to work in the 2 sides of the fence. If there is a state actor, like the former Syria, you can live with deterrence. Otherwise, without operational latitude, you will not be able to stand in the requirement of the late Ben Gurion. But what we know now, that we have to add formally, informally, a new level, the level of influence. I think that the crowd here knows that in this combat, we are losing. We are losing all around the world and in Israel. There are those who are pouring money to influence campaign against Israel, but we have technology, and we have to use it. And it's not only a question of how to be organized, but how to encourage the private sector to be a part of our combat against anti-Israeli influence and anti-Semitism. I think the Jews around the world are expecting Israel, expecting us to lead this combat. The way I see it is like a battlefield. So we have the financing level, follow the money, trying to see where it comes from and intercept it. We have the intelligence level, trends, bots, and other things. And I think from a small look in the industry, I think that here we can find many, many new civilian enterprises, even commercial ones. But what is mostly missing is the intercepting side and the intercepting capability. Once you know that something is fake or something is against Israel or against Jews, how, according to a reasonable time to market, we eliminate it. Either by doubting that this is fake, either with liability, a contract with the big companies, or other methods. And this is something that we should develop. And now I would like to move, if I could, I need assistance. Okay. I would like to move to the last chapter here in this discussion about AI. First of all, I'm someone from those who support deploying AI and specifically agentic AI and Gen AI in organization. And I would like to share with you my experience in how to do it and the difficulties doing it in organizations in general from what I saw. First of all, the main challenge that we face today is the pace. Mostly technological pace, but also generational pace. You know, everybody's talking about The fact that the generation that what used to be measured in 25 years is now equivalent to 8 years. And we have this X generation and Y and Z and everything. By the way, if we take it to the Israeli arena, we may say that until more or less, again, 73, we had the what generation. They just ask the leaders what to do. After the shock of 73, we have the how generation. They still do whatever they are being told to do, but they try to do it more efficiently, with less victims, of course, more cheaply, etc., etc. Now we have the Y generation. And it's not that they are worse than the former one, the opposite. They ask very tough questions, they want answer, we have to provide them with answer. And we saw the outcome of this generation during the last war in Gaza and in other places, their motivations, skills, and everything. But I think that there is a tiny line between Y generation and Y me generation, and this is only up to us. If we take another example of courses of communication, so until not recently, a few decades ago, we used to send actually mail through a postman. And then we started talking. And then we started emailing and chatting. And now we are deleting. The applications are competing who deletes faster the messages you write in the application. So it's very, very challenging to get used to all those quick changes. If I'll take it to the intelligence arena, once we were talking, we used the word SIGINT. And the act was to get access to SIGINT in order to get information and intelligence. When cyber emerged, we have had a variety of channels. It was too much for us. And we also faced the problem of encryption. So we started using the verb hacking or attacking. When data came, we saw the opportunities. And we started using the word fusing, because we fuse between all sorts of data in order to see anomalies. And by the way, in the same way that you target people in the commercial area, you also target potential sources in order to know how to approach them. And last, what we see now in the Gen AI area is the issue of insights. It gives us insights. There are many, many difficulties to deploy Gen AI and agentic AI in organization. I put some of them. First of all, many companies, of course, security organization, use on-prem and use the cloud. You want to enjoy from the reach of the cloud, but you're afraid for your own intelligence secrets. So this is one challenge. Analysts were used to seek answers, and now they have to prompt questions, not only answers. Change in their occupation. Like in any organization, when you have many generations, you always have early adapters and what I call elderly adapters. Those who refuse to enter technology into the organization because of their afraid to lose the knowledge and power. And of course, again, there is a border, a very tiny and sensitive border between adapting technology and being addicted to technology. All of these challenges we have to face. So my message here is, first of all, I recommend, and I will give 2 examples, or one, to deploy AI, Gen AI, and agentic AI. I believe that in multidisciplinary organization, the option to use agents in multiple areas to extract the information for you, because you cannot be, as a director, expert in everything, is essential today, and it's an opportunity. And I really encourage CAOs or directors to be deeply, deeply involved in deploying Gen AI in the organization. This is the first advice. The second one is to have an holistic point of view about it. It's a dramatic change. Structures, processes, cultures, judicial, everything. And when we did it in the ISA, about 2 or 3 years ago. We started, by the way, I cannot really give us good or bad marks. I don't know. But what we did is we decided to divide it into 4 different areas. The first one was to arrange, this was the most urgent one, to arrange the analyst's desktop. Because within a year, we moved from intercepting, in average, 450 severe attacks a year to intercepting more than 1,000 a year. So imagine the analyst coming to work in the morning and he cannot really know what to begin with. He needs someone to help him. The second area is efficiency, because we can learn from civilian companies how to be more efficient, fuel, electricity, human resources, and others, with what they have learned or invented. The third one, and this is tricky and interesting, is using AI in the decision-making process. Now, why is it tricky? I said before that it's easy to be adapted to it, and issues of responsibility. I think that we should maintain their responsibility to decide about on human beings, on the managers. But we should use the AI capability as a co-pilot in order to tell us when and where we are wrong. And I remember that when I was a young combatant in the army about 4 decades ago, we used to memorize all our course navigation by heart, not to be caught with a map. But then they invented the GPS. So our commanders had a problem. If we will give them the GPS capability, they will not know how to really navigate, but the GPS is better than them. So what they decided is a compromise. They let us enter to our vehicle, one person. He was with his blanket, that the light will not go out of the vehicle. He was with the computer with the GPS. He was not allowed to talk. He was sitting behind the navigator. But only when the navigator was wrong, he could say, "You're wrong." But even after that, the one who took the decide was the navigator. And the last one, which I thought will be very, very difficult, and now I believe it's not, is predicting. We can ask the machine today, who is more likely to become a terrorist in a specific place in the world or in the Middle East or even here, according to the data that he learns from us. We took a very famous case, I will not talk about it, for many years that we actually didn't solve. And along those years, we did some operations in order to get the results, and we failed. And we gave our engine, our internal agent, by the way, like Jews all over, we have 2 engines to compete one another in the ISA. So we gave the engine the challenge, and actually he solved it. He solved it, so if we would have had it 10 years ago, it would have solved the problem. So for those who used the last 20 minutes to nap, these are my messages. I suggest that we look very, very seriously at influence as a battlefield. I think that managers should be deeply involved in deploying Gen AI to learn from the outside and to bring it in. I think that we should establish cyber alliances and create a free cyber arena. I think we should maintain being not only a startup nation, but also a smart-up nation. And as I said, we should maintain operational latitude wherever you don't find a state behind the border. Thank you very much.